We're gonna be safe and sound tonight.
Welcome. Today we're talking about the social contract, which is contractual law for a hypothetical city-state which we are building and creating in reality. Here's your demo videos, Discord server where you can chat. This is the preamble. It is copied and pasted pretty much from the United States Constitution. It says that the Bill of Rights and non-aggression principle are followed within the city. Essentially human rights at most. For violating the law, it'll be at most seizure of your property and removal of your residence status. So ostracism is worst case scenario, pretty much. You can only have your property sitting vacant for up to 180 days. Corporations cannot own property, and non-residents cannot own property. So you have to be a resident in order to purchase property. This is a transparent budget. This is the tax structure. This is a complicated and important part. There is a universal basic income. Starts at age 15 at $300 a month. Increases $20 every five years until $500 at retirement. There's 4 taxes: electricity, sin, landlord, and child. The electricity is for factories. The sin is for bad behavior, I suppose, but it still remains legal. The landlord is to prevent monopolization of real estate, and if said monopolization begins to occur, they pay very, very handsomely into the universal basic income. And this is a progressive tax, so the landlord tax increases. The rate increases as you acquire more property. And the child tax is the same as the landlord tax, except for children instead of property. So notice this is a non-linear, this is an exponential function. These percentages can be changed by a 3/4 vote in the residential election, which is right here. This is the democratic system. You can decide upon tax and UBI rate changes. Also vote for king or queen and all of these various councils that are somewhat self-explanatory, but they go into more detail further below. This is annual using a multi-round caucus system, which is very transparent, almost impossible to manipulate, which is what we want. Also, you can vote upon large public projects, which are financed based on how many hexagons you own. So the more property you own, the more you have a one-time tax for the large public project. Also, you can alter the contract. This is the equivalent of amendments to the Constitution. The king or queen determines the specific tax rates, public projects, and social contract changes to be voted on the following year. They also are the tie-breaking vote in several councils. He also sets the general cultural, psychological tone of the city and operates in a non-binding leadership role, which is kind of what I'm doing right now. The removal council removes persons and judges, but only if they have committed a serious crime or series of violations which are listed in this contract. You get 75% of your auction prices if and when your property is seized and auctioned. So you get 75% back, which is, I think, pretty generous. People were publicly removed. The cases and judgments are publicly available. Immigration Council is the opposite. It's letting people into the city. So this is to have a selective choice in its residents. You can, based on net worth, skill sets, knowledge, age, sex, race, criminal record, interview process, all of that. All new residents are granted during meetings. Oh, this is important. Once your resident status is granted, it can only be revoked by the removal council. So you can't be removed for essentially no reason has to be a good reason, and you have to violate the contract in order to be removed. Moving on to a residency status requires you to live in Ancapistan for at least 3 months of the year, which keeps everyone focused on their locality, and instead of things overseas or out of state or in different cities. The focus should be local, and ownership should be local. Development Council holds twice monthly meetings on the development and expansion of the city. They determine where new hexagons will be built and what type of road is to be constructed where. The Artistic Council, so these are like the engineers. These are the artists. That's the essential breakdown. But they work together. They're in close communication with each other. The Artistic Council schedules and or advertises local events, as well as determines outdoor art, sculpture, graffiti, murals, parks, or can delegate its power. The Ancapistan Court is essentially the list of criminal offenses and judgments, and if it makes you eligible for removal. Also includes a time window for when you are forgiven for previous faults and previous crimes. So this is just a really general overview of what to expect on how strict everything is. The Contractual Court is for contract violations. The big one would be failure to pay tax and embezzlement. So those would be the big two. The Contractual Court has a 10% fee. And the next is large public projects, which I already discussed briefly. Paid proportionally based on how many hexagons the given resident owns. So if you own no hexagon, you don't pay any fee for the large public project, which might be a problem. We'll see. Judge checks and balances is the removal. The removal council can remove corrupt judges. There is a judge-only election for if this process occurs. So if this process occurs, it doesn't go to the general public. Although that might be considered changing that as well. You don't want to bother the public too often, and I don't know. You could have that go up to a public vote. I think it originally was, but I changed it to a judge-only vote. All of the majority of judges would have to be corrupt and conspiring, which I suppose is possible, but this is probably the most complicated game theory type aspects of writing this contract, is a lot of the checks and balances. There's checks and balances between the monarch and the direct democracy, and then there's checks and balances between the removal council and the monarch and the other councils, and the removal council and other judges and things like that. So, renters' rights. Eviction. You can only be evicted 30 days after non-payment. You're given temporary storage and housing for 30 days after eviction. If you are still homeless after the 30 days after eviction, you are eligible for removal. If they're kicking you out, if you're paying rent, but you want to be evicted anyway, it changes from 30 days to 90 days. The residents pay for construction and development of new hexagons, and so there's all private property within the city. Obviously, that was covered before in the beginning. There's auctions during development council meetings of airspace, and then you can develop the airspace once you purchase it. This is the various road infrastructure. There's transit, which is transit, freight for freight, and freestyle, which is the unique one. Freestyle roads are creatively developed by each individual hexagon owner themselves according to their own wishes. This would result in unique and dynamic arrangements perfect for restaurants, services, and businesses of all kinds. Even eccentric, crafty, and creative residences would enjoy being part of a freestyle road. Freestyle roads are intended to blur the lines between public and private spaces and foster innovative and enjoyable interiors throughout Ancapistan. Transportation hexagons is where the roundabouts occur. These remain under city ownership, and the upper portions can be leased to residents and businesses or used for other purposes. So you could lease a coffee shop above the transport hexagon. So, if you just want to hang out in this transportation hub, a libertarian economy. Within the city limits, we follow strict constitutional law, meaning no enforcement of or adherence to federal income tax, federal regulations, or any other gross violations of Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, such as the necessary and proper clause. We only allow the use of gold, silver, Bitcoin, barter, and other cryptocurrency for trade within the city. We believe in the prosperity generated by the free market as well as localized capital formation and investment. Therefore, we believe that unconstitutional fiat currency is highly corrosive to a free and healthy society. So, we are against fiat and central banking. Also, public school will not be allowed in Ancapistan. Any taxation of Ancapistan residents, excluding the Article 4 tax structure, is strictly illegal. Last and not least, but the final article, be excellent to each other. The success of any society is determined most of all by its participants. Honor, integrity, kindness, and overall good character will be the deciding factor in Ancapistan's quality, longevity, and prosperity. Without a sense of creativity, vitality, and shared goals, Ancapistan will likely descend into a 21st century trailer park. Without a sense of cooperation, respect, and community, Ancapistan will likely descend into a 21st century dystopia, worse than the one we are fleeing from. We have the unique opportunity to start from scratch. Don't let the slow creep of evil overshadow the good which we all strive to create together. So that's just a wonderful little outro, and it really sets the tone for the cooperative aspects that this civilization or this city-state will require to be successful and to grow and thrive and prosper. So I feel like this document is in a really compromising state in a good way. I mean compromising as left versus right compromise, as anarchy versus authority compromise. It has direct democracy. It has a monarchy. It has enumerated rights. It has strong private property. It has encodified transparency. It has a UBI. All of these things. There's no legislature as well. I never mentioned any legislature, which I think is arguably the most important part. So, law is not written for this contract unless there is a 5/6 majority direct democracy vote. It's the only way to write law. And the king or queen needs to be elected the previous year and determine the specific tax rates, public projects, and social contract changes to be voted on the following year. So note that the thought leader, the king or queen is the thought leader, and they propose the changes, and they propose what they feel needs to be voted on the following year. And they can suggest multiple tax rates changes, multiple projects for the tax and UBI rate changes, large public projects altering this contract. So this is the thought leader who makes the suggestions, and then the direct democracy responds to that, responds and approves of those suggestions, which I think is a really nice balance. I think it's a really nice check on power, and I think it's the best of both worlds. Like, the people have the power, but at the same time the people can't push the city in kind of a unstable direction. So the king is he's meant to be the steward, and the people are meant to rubber stamp everything. So I think it's a nice system. I think it's a unique system. I think it's innovative and conservative at the same time. At the bottom is just some numbers. It's the numbers which Article 4 is derived from mostly. This is pretty much all Article 4. That's where most of the thought and most of the details and slow changes over time have a lot of effort's been put. So you can download the PDF in the description. You can visit us on Discord, which will also be in the video description. You can like and subscribe, and you can join and help build this beautiful community. We have financing. We're looking at land right now. We have a lot of people who are excited and interested, and yeah, it's coming together. People are very happy about it. People are very excited about it, because this is so much better than just following the nonsense coming out of Washington, D.C. The news cycle, the endless BS. Why not start over? And why not make your own rules and write your own rules to a whole new game where you don't have to play games anymore? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this brief but thorough overview of the social contract. You can reread it if you'd like in your own time, at your own pace, and really absorb all of the concepts, because there's certainly a lot there. There's a lot packed into a very small piece of paper. But, oh, and don't forget the version 6 demo video, also very important. That's it. Hope you enjoyed, and have a nice day.